Revealed, the amazing journey of a candidate with torn shoes who surprised 33 others and won. Jason stood at the entrance of the campus auditorium, his frayed shoes slightly scuffed from the journey that morning. Each tear in the fabric felt like a whisper of doubt, an urgent reminder of how far he had come yet remained. It was the moment he had been waiting for, the state scholarship program that had offered a glimpse of hope amid the suffocating weight of economic disparity. 2 months of sweat, grit, and perseverance condensed into one final presentation with 33 affluent peers, most showcasing resumes polished with privilege. But the real fight lay within. He glanced past the polished shoes and tailored suits of his classmates, their laughter echoing through the halls, contrast sharpening the sting of his reality. Why did their wealth breed disdain while his worn shoes meant dismissal? The pressure built as Jason realized the stakes weren't just academic, they were personal, mocking him with their elegance while he felt trapped in the cycle of poverty. But he dreamed of change. Should I speak up? The thought tormented him. Alex, the seemingly perfect classmate, had been using connections to manipulate advantages, but to expose him would risk alienation. Would they see him as a troublemaker? Or worse, would they dismiss him entirely? Suddenly, an overwhelming surge of anxiety washed over him, his heart racing with each flicker of insecurity. This revelation could alter everything, the chance to shift the paradigm of fairness, yet also jeopardize what little acceptance he had among his peers. He leaned against the cold brick wall, taking deep breaths, but they couldn't suppress the turmoil that swirled within him. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the presentation date loomed closer, the weight of fear sank deeper into his chest. The thought of living in silence while Alex sauntered into victory, a victory built on deceit, disgusted him. Each night, under the flickering light of his desk lamp, Jason wrestled with dread and hope, his hands trembling as he prepared his notes. He envisioned his mother's face, weary yet proud, guiding him through an excruciating moral dilemma. The impending reality was unrelenting. Every evening, after countless hours of study, Jason would walk the quiet streets of Maplewood. In their familiarity, he felt a flicker of solace, yet dread loomed like storm clouds overhead. What would my mother say? He questioned, the vortex of self-doubt swirling stronger as he imagined losing the opportunity for which they'd both sacrificed so much. Would standing up for truth sacrifice everything he longed to achieve? The auditorium awaited, the judges sat silently, eyes turned to him. Jason's mind raced, thoughts colliding like a whirlwind. Should he betray his values and watch as another slipped through on gilded wings, or shall he ignite the fire of justice, risking everything? The mic felt hot against his palm, the weight of imminent decisions crushing. With every breath, the moment approached, anticipation mingling with horror. The unveiling of his truth or the clenching of his heart in silence hung paralyzingly close. Jason took a deep breath, the world around him fading into a distant hum. He focused on the microphone, the cold metal warming slightly against his clammy palm. This was it, no turning back. As the spotlight illuminated his face, he felt the eyes of the audience bore into him, their expectations heavy. Uncertainty gnawed at him, yet beneath it lingered resolve. Today, he would not be silent. The screen behind him flickered to life, displaying his presentation, a journey through struggle and perseverance, punctuated with the stark realities of his life. Each slide was a testament to hard work, an articulation of dreams against adversity. But beyond the results on the paper, he knew there was something deeper he had to address. Nervously, he glanced at Alex, who sat uncomfortably at the front, exuding an air of confidence built on false merits. Jason's gut twisted, stirring memories of the times he had second-guessed himself. Was he merely an imposter, hiding behind his achievements? But at that moment, something shifted inside him, an ember of conviction igniting into flames. With determination, he began, articulating not just statistics but the truths that had shaped him, the nights spent studying under flickering lights, the conversations with his mother, who sacrificed so much for his future. He spoke of resilience and the fire that fueled his aspirations, weaving in a thread of integrity. But, he knew he had to confront the fabrications too. As I stand here today, I want to address something crucial. Jason's voice rang clear, a tremor of intensity charged within it. He took a breath, feeling palpable tension in the auditorium. I have witnessed unethical practices within this program, and I cannot ignore that while speaking about truth and honesty. It is my duty to call out what is wrong for the sake of fairness. Gasps trickled through the crowd, eyes widening in disbelief. Jason's heart raced as he continued, the words now flowing like a river unrestrained. Each sentence melted away the weight he had carried. By exposing Alex's manipulation, he felt empowered, even as uncertainty lurked at the edges of his mind. What if they turned against him? What if this decision led to isolation? Yet, the fire within him burned brighter. I believe we all deserve equal footing, regardless of our backgrounds. Talent and hard work should determine our futures, and not privilege. This must be addressed today, for the sake of justice and fairness. The final utterance hung in the air as he scanned the room, searching for supportive faces. After what felt like an eternity, silence enveloped the audience, their expressions unreadable. Jason's pulse raced, a whirlwind of consequences swirling in his mind: applause, ire, expulsion, fame. Would he be celebrated as a hero of integrity or demonized as a whistleblower? As he stepped back from the microphone, braced for the backlash, the room began to stir. He felt a profound shift, a mix of fear and unyielding hope. Perhaps this journey was not only about securing a scholarship but about redefining his narrative, rewriting what it meant to stand tall, even in the face of overwhelming opposition. With this revelation, Jason realized he had unlocked a potential within himself he didn't know existed. As murmurs spread like wildfire, he realized the decision he had made could change everything. He faced a reckoning with his peers that could either uplift him or plunge him back into obscurity. But now, he was ready to stand firm, no longer the boy in torn shoes. Yet as whispers rose and eyes narrowed, he felt the undeniable truth creep in. Would this brave act lead to the acceptance he sought, or expose him to the wrath of those whose facade he had shattered? The next steps lay uncertain, and the weight of the audience's judgment loomed ahead. Were they about to witness a hero's rise or a fall from grace? Jason's breath caught in his throat as he stepped back from the podium, the silence reverberating in his mind like a drumbeat of disbelief. The weight of his declaration hung heavily, every pair of eyes holding unspoken opinions, judgments, questions that would echo through the corridors long after the spotlight faded. He had crossed a line, and while he felt a surge of pride, doubt shadowed the corners of his mind. Was he prepared to face the repercussions of his choice? As the murmurs swelled, he sought refuge within himself, questioning the resolve he had just exhibited. Declarations of integrity were commendable, but what if they marked him as an outcast? The thought made his stomach churn. Every face in the audience now represented a potential ally or enemy. He noticed Alex's expression twisted into a mask of disbelief, the confidence he had radiated just moments earlier now marred. Jason's heart raced, fueled by a mix of fear and exhilaration. Without thinking, he turned to leave the stage, feeling uncharacteristically liberated. As he stepped down, each footfall echoed with a determination he had barely acknowledged before. He had taken a stand, and no matter the outcome, he would face it head-on. In the aftermath, what followed was a series of interactions that crystallized the uncertainty of his situation. Students approached him in clusters, some with eyes alight with admiration, others narrowed with resentment. "I can't believe you did that," one girl said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're incredibly brave." Bravery felt like a fleeting concept at that moment. He wanted to respond, to express gratitude. Instead, all he managed was a nod, aware that his heart still raced from the adrenaline of vulnerability. Each compliment was laced with the understanding that he was now under scrutiny, dissected by every peer who had watched the spectacle unfold. Later, as classes resumed, whispers trailed him. It was clear that his revelation was a catalyst for discussions about ethics, privilege, and meritocracy. Some classmates aligned themselves with Jason's perspective, sharing their own experiences of discomfort in a system that favored the few over the many. Yet, others scoffed, dismissing his courage as recklessness. Their judgment felt like knives, sharp and unwelcome. The more Jason navigated the hallways, the more fortified his resolve became. He was a player in a game much larger than himself, a game requiring strategy and a keen understanding of motivation. He needed to prepare for his next steps, to harness the momentum he had built. If he was going to champion honesty and integrity, he would need to educate and rally others. After school, Jason spent hours digging into resources about leadership and ethics in professional environments. To effect real change, he realized he needed knowledge to back up his ideals. Each article he read felt like a confirmation that his path forward must be paved with not only passion but also tangible strategies. As he moved towards the front lines of this unseen battle, a revelation struck him. He would create a forum, a safe space where others could share their experiences and learn from one another. It would be a haven for those silenced by fear, an opportunity to bridge the gap between privilege and ambition. The word silence resonated with him as he envisioned a place where those like him could speak freely. Yet, lurking beneath his vision was uncertainty. Could he generate enough interest? Would he risk further alienation by taking this step? The stakes were high, but a flicker of excitement sparked within him. This was not just about his future, it was about cultivating a community that values transparency and honesty. Jason stood at the precipice of change, ready to embrace what lay ahead. But even as he took the first steps toward creating dialogue, looming questions pulsed in the back of his mind. Would he be able to unite others with his vision, or would the very walls he built come crashing down in descent? The time had come to face the challenge of leadership, and in that moment, he knew he had only just begun. The days that followed his declaration blurred into an amalgam of heightened awareness and lingering apprehension. Jason realized quickly that the echo of his words had not only invited admiration but also scrutiny, an inevitable consequence of stepping into the realm of leadership. Each time he entered a classroom, he could almost sense the weighty eyes weaving narratives around him, splitting into factions of those who supported his stance and those who branded him reckless. On a gray Tuesday afternoon, as a bruise of rain chased sunlight through the school's windows, Jason sat hunched over a table in the library, surrounded by stacks of books that felt more like armor than resources. The crisp pages fluttered as his thoughts battled among one another. Could he truly spearhead this initiative? Would anyone show up if he managed to organize it? Those questions gnawed at him, almost drowning out the surrounding bustle of students sharing laughter and secrets. With a breath that felt too deep for the moment, he gathered notes and outlined his vision, a forum dedicated to open discussions about navigating ethical dilemmas in their academic environment. It would be a rare opportunity for students to bemoan their silent struggles against privilege and reveal their experiences candidly. That evening, contemplating whether to mention these plans to his friends, Jason hesitated. He imagined the responses, encouragements mixed with skepticism. It was terrifying, the thought of opening up his ambitions to those who had just watched him become a target. But retreating back into silence felt like capitulation. In a surprising measure of impulse, he reached for his phone and drafted a group message. "Hey, anyone interested in a meeting to discuss some ideas I've been brewing about fostering honest dialogue in school? I think there's a lot we could gain from it." The screen cheered back at him with a solitary blue tick. For hours, he kept his phone within reach, unconsciously repeating the message in his mind with variations, hoping for a reaction. Each time it buzzed, adrenaline rushed through him until he realized it was merely a notification unrelated to his message. Then, a response lit up his screen. "Alex, I'm in. Let's see what you've got." For a moment, Jason's resolve was revitalized, the anxiety receding just far enough to breathe. As more messages trickled in from others, each confirming attendance, he recognized the birth of hope. Balancing between a flicker of optimism and the chill of fear, he began to envision room arrangements, seating charts, and the potential for discourse that might uplift those silenced by doubt. Yet, beneath the immediate excitement, doubt resurfaced, relentless as ever. What if he failed to inspire? What if those who attended found his ideals laughable? As Friday approached, Jason meticulously prepared, drafting an agenda and researching effective ways to facilitate conversation. He could almost hear the click of pens against paper, the subtle shuffling of feet, and the stirrings of uncertainty in the air of that classroom. The day arrived, and anxiety settled heavily in his stomach as he leaned casually against the doorframe, waiting for the participants to trickle in. Each student's entrance felt like a step into uncertain territory. What if they judge me or simply walk out mid-discussion? When the room buzzed with a hesitant energy, Jason took a deep breath. This was not merely about launching a forum, it was about solidifying his commitment to transparency, about validating the experiences he had shared and those he had yet to uncover. He opened the meeting, words pouring out, layered with intent and resolve. But the moment he caught sight of Alex's skeptical frown and distant posture, a jolt of self-doubt surged through him. The tension in the room became palpable, setting the stage for a confrontation he hadn't anticipated. As Jason stood poised at the threshold of engagement, uncertainty coiled tighter within him. Would he be able to navigate the potential backlash? Would his effort to establish dialogue turn into a rallying cry or a bitter failure? With each word spoken, the path forward lay before him, rife with possibilities and obstacles alike. The moment had come, and as he waited for the first reaction, the air thickened with questions that could define him. Would this, indeed, ignite the courageous conversation he sought, or crack under the weight of fear? The silence hung heavily in the air, an anchor weighing down Jason's resolve as he looked at the expectant faces before him. He took a step forward, pushing against the dread that clung to him like a second skin. The forum was meant to be a safe space, yet the simmering apprehension made him feel like he was standing on shaky ground. But he framed his opening words carefully, aiming to create a bridge between vulnerability and strength. Thank you all for coming. The goal of this meeting is to create a platform where we can discuss some tough questions that might challenge us but can also lead to growth. His voice wavered slightly, betraying the calm demeanor he tried to project. Alex shifted in his seat, arms crossed defiantly. The frown deepened, suggesting doubt and perhaps even contempt. Jason felt the heat flush to his cheeks. Could he overcome this challenge? Could he transform the energy in the room into something productive? He proceeded to share his vision for transparency and dialogue, connecting it to personal experiences, the unseen struggles behind grades, the concealed biases that affected choices. The initial nods from a few peers offered a glimmer of hope, yet there was Alex, whose expression remained stone-faced. Why should we believe it's possible to change anything? Alex's challenge sliced through the tentative atmosphere, drawing the attention of the group. Jason's heart raced, the eyes of his classmates boring into him, as if waiting for him to falter. Swallowing his irritation, Jason chose to engage rather than retreat. Because all dialogue begins with the courage to talk. Just engaging in this conversation takes the first step. I'm here to listen as much as to share. Some murmurs rose, the tension beginning to shift slightly. Jason seized the moment, encouraging others to voice their thoughts and experiences. Slowly, the atmosphere transformed from skeptical to curious. One after another, stories emerged, tales of isolation, academic pressure, and the struggles that often remained hidden behind the masks students wore. The dialogue that flickered to life was not devoid of conflict. Disagreement sparked, voices occasionally raised, yet as each opinion collided with another, a tapestry of understanding gradually began to take shape. With each passing moment, Jason felt himself stepping further into his own emerging leadership, navigating the discourse with newfound dexterity. Then, a remarkable moment occurred. After a heated exchange about privilege, a quieter student, Mia, spoke up. I never realized others felt the same way I do. It feels good to share this. Jason felt the words resonate throughout the room. If Mia could find comfort in shared transparency, maybe there was hope. As the discussion deepened, so did Jason's belief in the significance of this forum. He encouraged each participant, guiding them back when discussions strayed too far from the core emotion. An inner resolve ignited within him. This was about more than just a single conversation, it was about fostering a culture of communication. When the meeting concluded, there was a palpable shift. Alex, once skeptical, now nodded thoughtfully, seeming to contemplate what he had heard. As students filtered out, Jason caught up with Mia, whose eyes sparkled with newfound confidence. "Thank you for making that space," she said sincerely. Jason felt a warmth blossom within him. There was purpose in what he had embarked upon. As evening settled, Jason leaned against his desk, exhausted but exhilarated. The forum had unexpectedly transformed into something meaningful, a beacon for future dialogues. Yet, lingering in the corners of his mind were the questions and doubts he hadn't quite put to rest. Was this the first step toward his vision, or a mere flicker of temporary success? Just then, a message flashed on his phone. It was from Alex. "Let us talk about this tomorrow." The simplicity of the note struck him as both ominous and promising. He could feel the tides of change at his back, pushing him toward the next challenge. What lay ahead remained uncertain, but Jason felt a stirring determination grow within. The time had come to face whatever Alex wanted to discuss, and with it, the potential for forging deeper connections or deeper divides. The morning sun broke through the heavy clouds, illuminating the corners of Jason's room. He blinked away the remnants of sleep, heart pounding with anticipation about his impending conversation with Alex. The thought danced in his mind, weaving through a tangle of anxiety and resolve. Today could solidify his progress or unravel it in a heartbeat. After a quick breakfast and a reluctant glance at the clock, he zipped up his jacket, trying to shake off the unease that had settled over him. Stepping outside, the brisk air filled his lungs, infusing him with a surge of energy. As he walked to school, he rehearsed potential scenarios in his mind, battling the familiar jitters that threatened to creep back in. When Jason stepped into the school building, his eyes darted around for familiar faces. The echoes of laughter and chatter only heightened his senses. In contrast, he felt like a lone sailor adrift, realizing the weight of his recent accomplishments but still grappling with the spectral presence of doubt. He spotted Alex leaning against the lockers, arms folded and face obscured by a shadow, giving nothing away. "Hey," Jason began, forcing a casual tone. The casualness felt forced, like a mask concealing his apprehension. "Hey," Alex replied, his voice lacking the hostility it once held. But there was something else, an intensity that made Jason's heart thud louder. They stepped away from the bustling throng, finding an abandoned corner of the hallway punctuated by the dim light overhead. Alex's posture shifted, the tension exuded a different energy. "I've been thinking about what we discussed at the forum," he began, carefully choosing his words like stepping on eggshells. "It's hard for me to accept things can really change. Not just talk. Do you really think we can make a difference?" Jason felt a surge of hope mingle with trepidation. Was this his moment for breakthrough, or a trap ready to ensnare him? He needed to present himself clearly yet authentically. "I believe in the power of dialogue, Alex. It's not just about words, it's about understanding and action. If we recognize our shared experiences, we find common ground." "Right," Alex replied, skepticism knocking against the hopeful walls that Jason was building in his mind. "But it's not that simple. What if you're just setting everyone up for disappointment? What if change requires more than just conversations?" Jason's mind raced. The challenge was raw, palpable, a true test of his conviction. "You're right," he countered, his voice steadying, "but what if the disappointment comes from not trying? If we don't even engage, then we'll never know what's possible. Every change starts small, right? Our voices can be the catalyst." A fleeting moment of contemplation crossed Alex's features, causing Jason's pulse to quicken. Was he seeing a glimmer of understanding? But then it slipped away like sand through his fingers. "Maybe you're naive," Alex shot back. "Or maybe you just don't know what you're asking for." He stepped back, the intensity replaced with a cool detachment, leaving Jason momentarily disarmed. Something inside Jason sparked a fierce determination to hold his ground. "It might seem naive, but I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe in something bigger than myself. I know I can't change everything overnight, but I can start the conversation, and so can you." Alex pushed his hands deeper into his pockets, his eyes narrowing in thought. It was a stalemate of sorts, a battle of wills played out in silence. The air thickened with tension, thick enough to cut, yet alive with the promise of connection. "Let us see," Alex finally said, his tone softer, a hesitant acceptance. "Show me what you mean. Let us continue this dialogue." As they parted, Jason felt the energy shift within him. Perhaps today wasn't he just about defeating doubt, it was about forging unexpected alliances. All those questions he had danced around now formed an urgent clarity within him. He wasn't simply navigating a conversation anymore, he was aiming toward a goal far more profound, but as he walked away, the earlier trepidation returned in waves, hinting at deeper complications ahead. What door had he opened, and could he truly handle the repercussions? Did he have the ability to remain steadfast while exploring the vastly unknown? Little did he know that the greatest challenges weren't simply with Alex but would come from within himself, emerging from the shadows of self-doubt, revelation still waiting to unveil. The moment of truth loomed ever closer. The following days unwound in a haze of expectation as Jason navigated his routine, the conversation with Alex replaying in his mind like a persistent melody. Each moment carried the weight of unspoken possibilities. He found himself questioning whether he was truly ready to step into the role he envisioned. Would he be able to guide other students through their own doubts and fears, or was he simply piecing together a fragile house of cards? The morning before school, Jason stood in front of the mirror, studying his reflection. The nervous smile that greeted him felt foreign, yet somehow familiar, all part of the facade he crafted daily. He adjusted his jacket, recalling the conversations blazing with potential growth. He felt the urge to flee from this uphill battle against self-doubt, yet a stronger current pulled him toward commitment. It wasn't just about Alex anymore, it was about everyone who felt muted in the halls of their lives. At school, the noise of chatter felt like a distant storm that rumbled just beyond his periphery. He walked toward the cafeteria, where groups clustered around tables, laughter peeling off the walls. But instead of fading into the background, Jason navigated the vast sea of students with renewed purpose. He spotted Alex at a table with a few others, deep in conversation. A hesitant optimism began to bloom in him, perhaps this was the moment to put his words into action. "Mind if I join?" Jason asked, curve of determination in his voice as he approached their table. Alex looked up, surprise flickering across his face, followed by a nod. "Sure, take a seat." The conversations intermingled like a chaotic symphony, students throwing ideas back and forth. Jason felt his pulse quicken, the thrill of engagement igniting something deeper within him. The discussions surged around him, and it seemed almost effortless to contribute once he focused on what mattered. "They'll never listen unless we show them we care," one student proclaimed passionately, and the room shifted, heads nodding in agreement. Jason recognized the moment and seized it. What if we organized something like a forum? Not just to talk, but to genuinely hear one another out. His voice gained traction, carrying weight infused with authenticity. "Not because we have to, but because we want to." A murmur of interest spread like wildfire, a ripple cascade of enthusiasm awakening. The eyes that met his held curiosity and skepticism, but it didn't matter. Jason was stepping into uncharted territory, finally wielding the words he had rehearsed over and over again. He could feel the pulse of something alive. "Are you sure they will show up?" Alex challenged, a familiar edge back in his voice. But this time, it was different. Jason felt no fear in the face of skepticism, only resolve. "Why not?" Jason replied, purpose cutting through uncertainty. "If we believe in this, why wouldn't they? We have to give them the chance to be heard too. Change doesn't begin or end in these halls, it starts with us." For the first time, he saw Alex reevaluate the walls he had built around himself. The other students began to hash out ideas, each suggestion building momentum, and within that collective spontaneity existed the microscopic threads binding them all together. When the bell rang, Jason felt that sensation of exhilaration coursing through him, but alongside it lay remnants of anxiety. What had they begun? Was he ready for the unpredictability that lay ahead? He was a conductor now, orchestrating an ensemble of voices searching for harmony, but the weight of failure sat heavily on his shoulders. Jason exited the cafeteria with Alex beside him, the air simmering with possibilities of what lay ahead. "You weren't half bad," Alex admitted, a begrudging respect seeping into his tone, the hint of a smile lurking at the corner of his lips. Jason smiled back, heart racing. "Let us see where this leads us." As they stepped outside, Jason realized he stood not at the beginning but at a precipice. Each heartbeat pulsed with uncertainty, yet there was also excitement, a signal of growth. He would need to confront not only the reactions of his peers but also the storm of fear still echoing within him. The questions tumbled in his mind, growing clearer. Were they ready to band together? What challenges would emerge to test his resolve? What narrative still bound him to the past? Little did he know, the path ahead would demand more from him than he ever anticipated, a revealing journey transcending beyond mere words, unmasking the depths of his own courage. The arduous journey was just beginning, and the stakes would rise higher than ever. The next few days unfolded in a whirlwind of conversations and planning, as the excitement surrounding Jason's proposed forum began to take root. Flyers were crafted, dates debated, and potential speakers discussed. Each interaction forced him to confront the very doubts lingering in his mind. Would anyone actually come? Would they care what he had to say? He found himself entrenched in discussions that pushed him beyond his comfort zone. It wasn't merely about organizing a space to talk, it was about cultivating an environment where sincerity overpowered pretense. In these moments, he realized he needed to cement his authority not through bravado but through vulnerability. Jason could share his own struggles, his fears. This honesty could foster a deeper connection with others, creating a foundation for the dialogues they sought to inspire. The day before the forum, Jason sat hunched over his desk, engulfed in anxiety. His heart raced as he drafted his speech, the sound of his pen scratching against paper marking each wave of doubt crashing over him. What insights could he possibly offer? A part of him longed for the safety of silence, for the predictable solitude of being just another face in the crowd. But as he forced himself to write, something swelled within him, a flicker of resilience fueled by purpose. "Jason, you okay?" Alex's voice broke the silence, pulling him from the depths of his thoughts. He looked up, meeting Alex's concerned gaze. "Yeah," Jason sighed, but even to himself, it sounded unconvincing. "Do you want to run through what you're planning to say tomorrow?" Alex offered, stepping into the sanctum of Jason's trepidation. With a deep breath, Jason nodded. He felt the tension shift as Alex took a seat beside him, attentively listening to the lines that spilled out. Each word felt more certain, steadfast in its intentions. The weight of his internal conflict began to lift. "What you're doing is brave," Alex said after Jason finished. "Most people wouldn't even dream of standing up there." As they spoke, Jason recognized an important truth: growth demanded not the absence of fear, but the courage to face it. His role transformed from mere facilitator to champion of authenticity. The implications began to crystallize. He was asking everyone else to confront their emotions. How could he expect others to take that leap if he didn't first step into the abyss himself? The next day, nerves collided with anticipation as students poured into the auditorium. The room buzzed with chatter, but Jason stood at the front, heart pounding like a ritual drum. The air hummed with possibilities, and with each passing moment, uncertainty intertwined with resolve. How could he invite them into the conversation, ensure they understood this was a safe space? As the first wave of participants settled, the representations of worry on their faces were mirrored in his own. Yet those very expressions ignited a fire within him. Suddenly, he understood that this shared environment wasn't solely about his growth, it was about every voice in the room yearning for significance. Understanding this propelled Jason forward. He stepped up to the podium, facing the sea of hopeful yet guarded faces. His voice trembled, a delicate balance between confidence and vulnerability. "I'm Jason," he began, the weight of his heart echoing in his words. "I'm as scared to be standing here as any of you are to be listening. But isn't that the point? We're here together to embrace uncertainty together." As he spoke, he noticed the subtle shifts, the slight lean-in of heads hesitant nods signaling agreement. One spark turned into a wildfire, the judgments began to fade, replaced by a shared understanding of struggles woven deeply into the fabric of their lives. Even in this moment of belonging, doubt threaded through Jason's mind. Was this empathy enough? He could feel the swell of restless energy in the auditorium, whispering questions he feared lending voice to. How deep would they go beneath the surface? The retreating walls of his own insecurities felt like both a challenge and an invitation. Would he be able to lead them when his own confidence teetered on a precipice? The answers were murky, but for the first time, as he bore witness to the vulnerability of others in response, a deeper connection began to form. Perhaps it was in their shared recognition that change was more than the awakening, it was the choice of what to do with the momentum built in this electrifying moment. With every sentence, Jason inspired courage within himself and those around him, knowing he stood on the edge of transformation. There, at that crossroads, he realized this journey might lead to unforeseen realizations, not just for his peers but for himself as well. And as every eye in the room met his, Jason felt an undeniable shift, a call to delve deeper than the facade he had long hidden behind. Then, just as he began to anchor the dialogue towards a more profound exploration of their experiences, a voice from the back interrupted. "Yeah, but what if it doesn't work? What if we fail?" The tension in the room escalated. The question loomed like a storm cloud. Was Jason prepared to confront that uncertainty head-on? With the weight of doubt heavy in the air, the next chapter unfolded, testing not just the resolve of the forum but the resolve of who Jason truly was destined to become. Jason felt the air thicken around him as the voice echoed in the auditorium, reverberating through his chest. Doubt hung like a heavy curtain, ready to suffocate the moment. He met the gaze of the student who had spoken, a young woman with a look of both skepticism and curiosity. He recognized that expression, it mirrored his own inner turmoil. "Failure," he echoed, letting the word linger. What a daunting thought. He paused, allowing the weight of it to settle over the audience. But isn't at the core of what we're discussing? The fear of reaching out. The fear of stumbling even while searching for connection. His words hung like a thread grasped in a turbulent wind. It was a challenge both to himself and to the group. He wanted to cultivate a space that welcomed not just their strengths but their questions, their vulnerabilities. "You see, failure is not the opposite of success," Jason continued, finding a steadier rhythm. "It's a part of the process. If we never put ourselves out there, we might miss the opportunity for growth, for connection." He could feel the tension start to ease, some nods of agreement emerged. Yet deep inside, Jason grappled with his own uncertainties. Would he truly be able to confront failure if it crept into the forum? Was he ready to embrace that possibility alongside his peers? As he stood there, one thought solidified in his mind: he wasn't just here to engage in dialogue about fear, he was here to explore how to transcend it. Why do we fear failing? He pressed on, feeling emboldened. At its core, isn't it about the heart, the fear of being unworthy, unheard, or dismissed? But what if we redefine those failures as steps toward understanding ourselves better? The questions unleashed a ripple of murmurs across the audience. Almost instantly, the atmosphere grew electric, as if he had ignited something dormant within his peers. In that moment, Jason made a decision. He would not merely lead, he would invite his peers to share their fears and failures. He would foster a dialogue that probed deeper than surface anxieties. He would propose a vulnerability challenge. What if we all shared a fear, a failure? He suggested, the idea taking shape in his mind. Each of us could take a turn, just a minute or so, to express something we've been holding back. Eyes widened, some faces contorted with apprehension. He gauged the room's reaction, nervous that his suggestion might collapse under its own weight. But with every passing second, something inside him uncoiled. "Let us build a bridge," he urged, his voice rising slightly, desperation igniting the fervor in his declaration. "Together, we can create an understanding, a mosaic of our experiences. You'll see that you're not alone in what you fear." To his surprise, a few hands tentatively shot up. The first courageous soul was a freshman who had grappled with anxiety for years. She spoke haltingly at first, but Jason could see the relief wash over her as she shared her story, the powerful release of feelings suppressed for too long. Each confession that followed pushed through layers of fear. They painted their struggles with honesty, their voices weaving a collective narrative. Jason felt invigorated, each story resonating within him like a steady pulse, yet, as the confessions deepened, Jason found himself standing at the edge of an unsettling realization. Everyone was sharing their stories, yet he hadn't revealed his own hidden struggles. A gripping tension formed as the urge to share clawed at him. What was he hiding? Would unveiling his own failure allow him to connect even better with those around him, or risk shattering the newfound courage of others? Would it undermine everything he had built? In this moment, as he wrestled with the question, the voice of uncertainty nagged at him. The time had come to face the very fear he had invited others to embrace. He inhaled deeply, preparing to take his own leap of faith. "Let me share something," Jason announced, feeling the weight of the room shift back to him. As he spoke, he felt exposed yet liberated. Would he discover what lay beneath his own insecurities, challenging the facade he had polished for so long? And with that, Jason took the plunge into his own vulnerability, a leap that could redefine not just his journey, but that of everyone in the room. The question remained, in this unexplored territory of shared truths, would he emerge stronger or a fragment of who he once was? Jason stood at the podium, pulse quickening as he prepared to share his story with the open forum that had alive with vulnerability. The audience, now kindred spirits bound by threads of honesty, met his gaze with anticipation. What he had built over these weeks was more than just a discussion, it was a manifestation of dreams ignited by raw courage. Here, the stakes were high, but Jason was no longer driven by fear. Instead, a strengthened resolve coursed through him, urging him to reveal the unvarnished truth he had long concealed. "I was once afraid," Jason began, voice steady yet laced with the remnants of anxiety. "Afraid of being seen, of being perceived as weak or less than. I wore the mask of confidence, hiding the insecurities that gnawed at me from within." A hush fell over the room as he continued, vulnerability spilling forth like a river unbound, a torrent of experiences shared for the very first time. "Those feelings festered into fear every time I stepped forward, every time I hesitated at the threshold of action." As the words poured out, Jason felt an undeniable weight lift from his shoulders. He spoke of the moments beneath the flickering lamp, of self-doubt painting shadows across his dreams, and the pounding heartbeat that marked the brink of every endeavor he had nearly backed down from. He detailed the anxiety that taunted him even in the confidence of his endeavors, the relentless questioning of whether he was genuinely deserving of his place at that podium. "I want you to know," he said, emotion threading through his voice, "that every one of us faces our own battles, be they invisible or apparent. What's important is we acknowledge them. In our vulnerability, we find strength. It's in this acknowledgement that we become a community." As he continued, he observed eyes widening with empathy, not pity, but understanding. With each revelation, he felt his humanity resonate with theirs. Their shared gulfs of experience began to close, creating a bridge, an invisible bond of compassion linking them together. The atmosphere shifted palpably. What had begun as a mixture of skepticism and trepidation had morphed into an awakening, sparking embers of newfound connections. When he concluded, silence enveloped the auditorium, pregnant with reflection. He had taken the plunge, exposing the raw edges of his emotional landscape. It was more than a confession, it was an embodiment of transformation. And then, in that moment, applause erupted like rushes of wind. Not merely applause for his words but for the shared journey that had connected them all. That day carved a new monument in Jason's life, not the scholarship he had initially anticipated winning but a more profound recognition of self-worth that transcended accolades. The forum had become a sanctuary of raw honesty, a collective strength forged in emotion that would forever redefine his mission. Days rolled into weeks. Jason built on the momentum, guiding more forums, each discussion further dismantling walls of isolation often erected by fear and disappointment. He garnered support from classmates, those once considered adversaries transformed into allies. Conversations flourished, extending to students far and wide. Jason was no longer the boy in torn shoes but a figure recognized for his ability to draw out honesty and authenticity, regardless of social contrasts. Each forum sparked insights and solidarity, creating tangible progress. The school culture began to shift toward transparency, a shared commitment to confronting privilege and advocating integrity in their environments. Jason felt not just fulfillment but a profound sense of belonging. He had demonstrated that growth was a journey including the willingness to surface fears alongside hopes. Recognition flowed and the school administration applauded his efforts, commending him for cultivating impactful dialogue that encouraged ethical awareness. Invitations to speak about his journey emerged, solidifying his place as a voice of inspiration. Yet the most powerful progression he experienced was not the recognition, but the solid confidence that replaced the remnants of self-doubt. In facing his fears, he had proven to himself and his peers that transformation is forged through introspection, action, and a willingness to face honesty. Jason now stood not merely resolved but fulfilled in a meaningful purpose, leading by example. His shoes, though still frayed, were worn with pride, symbolic of the journey he had faced and the legacy he intended to leave behind, a testament that every step taken, torn shoes or not, had the power to transcend fear and ignite a fire of change. As he reflected on all he had accomplished, he couldn't help but smile. Here was the beginning of something much larger than himself, a movement of authenticity that began with one courageous step, evolving into an unwavering commitment to transparency. In a final act of empowerment, he sent out a call to his peers and the school community for ongoing dialogue. Together, he wrote, "We will uplift each other, no matter where we come from. Let us make noise about change because it begins with us." Jason's heart brimmed with pride, solid confidence reigning supreme. This was the transformation he had fought for, no longer a boy at the mercy of doubt, but a catalyst for accountability, honesty, and hope. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.